we are moving forward with some more steps that you need to take to find freedom from your addictions. We covered some basic steps in the previous two talks. We covered about 7 steps. And if you haven't heard those talks, please go back and listen to those talks, and that will prepare you to listen to this talk. Now, our aim is to find total and complete freedom from our addictions, and we step on the first step, or we start with the first step and slowly move higher. It is a ladder. It is a ladder of holiness, and through this process, we will find freedom from our addictions. So we covered some basic areas that you need to touch in order to find freedom from your addictions, and we have to keep doing them and till we find freedom from our addictions. Some of us are very passionate, very eager to quit our addictions, quit our habits, and we try these steps for a short amount of time or a short period of time, and when we don't see results, we quit these steps, and we feel that these things don't work. But we have to keep trying and keep trying till we find success, till we find freedom and liberation from our addictions. So we will move on to step number 8. If we were following the past two talks, we covered about 7 steps, and we are in the 8th step. Now, the 8th step, the way to find freedom from our addictions is to feed the spirit and not feed the flesh. Now, every addiction, the strength to do evil comes from a kind of a worldly, a worldly feeding in us. So what we feed becomes strong in us. Now, if we feed to the spirit becomes strong in us, and in turn can fight the sin nature that is in us. Now, very simple example. Now, when you are tempted to commit a sin, when you are tempted to go after an addiction, say maybe you have the urge to smoke, the urge to drink, or the urge to consume drugs, or it is some kind of sexual sin, there is a strong temptation in you, and at that point of temptation, you are trying hard not to commit that sin. You're trying to flee from that temptation, but at times you see that you don't have the strength enough to fight that temptation, and you are yielding to the temptation. Now, why is that you don't have strength in you to fight that temptation? Why is your spirit weak over your flesh nature? The reason being because the spirit is not being given enough spiritual food to fight the inclinations of the flesh. So in order for us to make our spirit strong, we need to feed the spirit. Now, it's just like our physical food. We get strength only when we eat. The more we eat, the more strength we have. Now, for example, you don't eat your breakfast, your whole morning is going to be dull, and you skip your lunch also, your whole day is going to be dull, and you don't have the strength to do your basic work if you don't eat properly. Similarly, within our spiritual nature, if we don't take that spiritual food, now spiritual food is nothing but spiritual activities that we do. Now, that is why the church says to do go for your fast, for your confession every week, do your fasting every week, go for mass every day, do your personal prayer every day, do your family prayer every day, do your scriptural reading, 30 minutes of scripture reading every day, spend some time praising God. Now, all these are spiritual activities, and these spiritual activities strengthen the spirit, which in turn can fight the sin nature in us, which in turn can fight the flesh nature in us. Now, otherwise, or else, say for example, you don't do all the things that I mentioned to you, but you spend all your time watching television, listening to music, browsing the internet. What you're actually doing is you're feeding the flesh. So your flesh becomes strong, and this strength is what leads you to sin. So you have to weaken the flesh and strengthen your spirit. So this is a exercise that you have to do, is weaken your flesh and strengthen your spirit. Feed the spirit and not the flesh. So when you expose yourself to all the spiritual goods, the spiritual things that God recommends, the church recommends, you are a spiritually strong person. You are in the presence of God. So when temptation comes, your soul, your spirit has the strength to fight it. So this is another area, an important area, I would say, to overcome our temptations. So be able to say no to those temptations, able to say no to those desires and urges. When we are tempted to commit a sin, when we are tempted to go and do it, go and commit that sin, go and fall into that sin, we will be given that supernatural strength, provided we have prepared ourselves well. We have prepared ourselves well. We have fed ourselves well with the spiritual goods. So that was point number 8. So do not take lightly even the smallest things you do. Family prayer, 20 minutes family prayer every day, 20 minutes of Bible reading every day, praise and thanksgiving, and daily mass, weekly confession, daily rosary, weekly fasting. So all these are spiritual activities. There are spiritual treasures that gives you the strength to say no to sin. So do not think they are just activities that people, the church wants you to do, but they are your food. It's the spiritual food, which is what is sustaining your spiritual life and keeps you away from a life of sin and evil. That was point number 8. Now we are going to point number 9. Point number 9, step to overcome our addictions. Have no expectations in life, because expectations lead to frustrations. Frustrations lead you to addictions, sin and addictions. So when you cut off the expectations, then you won't have any frustrations in life, and then in turn you will have less and less temptations to sin and to do evil. So expectations of life, surrender everything to God. Take everything the way it comes. I know people who drink because they're having problems in their family. They have problems at workplace, and they're trying to get it out through alcohol or smoking. They're relieving their stress through alcohol or smoking, because they go with expectations in this area. They go with expectations in family life. They go with expectations when they go to work, or when they go to any community or church or whatever it is. When they're dealing with people, they are having expectations from people, from life, and from workplace, from family. So all these things can break our heart, and when it breaks our heart, we try to run into these addictions. That is our hiding place. That is where we are hiding. That is where we are trying to protect ourselves. These things give us the temporary pleasure to forget the lasting worries, the worries that we have. It gives us a protection from these worries. That is what we think, and that is what we run after. That is why people drink, sometimes just to forget their worries, forget their sorrow, forget their condition, their spiritual condition, or their circumstances of life. They go after these addictions. So expectations lead to frustrations, frustrations lead to addictions. So have no expectations in life. Take life as it comes. Take life as it comes. Surrender everything to Jesus. Everything to Jesus. You get a job, you're happy. If you don't get a job, you're still happy. So when you come to that state in life, you will have no expectations and you will have no frustrations. The book of Habakkuk chapter 3 verses 17. Book of Habakkuk chapter 3 verses 17. There is a beautiful verse. It says, even if the fig tree doesn't give figs, even if the olive tree doesn't give olives, the Lord is still my God. My God is still my God. I will rejoice in him. So that should be our attitude. Whatever happens, doesn't happen, we still do not lose focus on God. We derive our joy from God, and then you will see that no addictions can come close to you. So the root of every addiction, you will see that frustration is one of the mother causes or chief causes of your addictions. So when you deal with this area, you will see that you will have power over your addictions, and you will have freedom from your addictions. That was point number 9, expectations and frustrations. So deal with this, take care of this area, try to take life as it comes, and you will see that you will have power over your addictions soon. Point number 10, dealing with our emptiness. Dealing with our emptiness. Now we are all, like I said, we are all creatures of love. We are created in love, and there is a thirst for love in us. And this love has to flow out of us, because we are created in love. We are created to love. And when we don't love God and love our neighbor, and we have some kind of unforgiveness in us, when we have some kind of hatred, bitterness, and revenge in us, resentment in us, we will see that slowly this love will flow in other directions. So if your love is not flowing toward God, meaning you don't love God and you don't love your neighbor, that is the people that God has put in your life, you're a selfish person, then you will see that your heart is going to go to all these things of this world, the addictions, the sin of this world, the pleasures of this world, the riches of this world, and all these things will choke your heart. So emptiness, so deal with your emptiness. So that is why the two greatest commandments, Jesus said, to come out of a life of sin, Jesus gave these two commandments: love God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your body, with all your soul, with all your strength, with your time, with your money, with your talents, and with everything. Secondly, love your neighbor as yourself. The way you want to love yourself, or the way you want others to love you, you go and love them. So when you fulfill these two commandments, you will see that you are focusing your love on these two commandments, doing charity work, doing almsgiving, going out and helping others, going out, even simple things, practical things, becoming a volunteer in your church or in your parish, and giving your time for others, giving your time for others. Another way to give time is to pray for others, intercede for others, intercede for people that you don't know. So when your heart opens to the people of this world, when your heart opens to God, then you will see that you will become less and less selfish in life. Now every sin is rooted in selfishness. Now sin is nothing but a selfish act where we gratify ourselves. So when you come out of yourself, you step out of yourself and look at the needs of the people around you, slowly you will see that you will free yourself from these addictions, because addictions is nothing but gratifying oneself. So that was point number 10. Deal with your emptiness, deal with that love that you need to give others. Go and do that, and you will see you will find freedom from your addictions. Finally, one more point for this talk, and then we will wind up, and then I will give you two more areas in the next talk, two more steps in the next talk. Unhappiness, dealing with unhappiness in life. This is another area, this is another common cause of addictions. People do smoke, people drink, people do drugs, people do all kinds of sinful things, because deep down there is unhappiness over their present life. It could be the family life, it could be the work situation, it could be their own body, their own unhappiness with how they look, unhappiness with their color, unhappiness with how life has turned out to be. Maybe they had a lot of plans for life, but life did not turn out the way it is, and they are unhappy about it, and the sorrow is leading them into a life of addictions. So the answer to unhappiness is by thanksgiving, being thankful every day for all the things that God has given, for all the things that God has blessed us with, beginning with our parents, our siblings, our family, our spouse, our children, our job, our body, our health. Even in areas of sufferings, shortages, and sicknesses, we have to be thankful to God. Always be thankful, always be thankful. That is another chief area, that is another primary area why we are entangled in addictions, why we are not able to find freedom from our addictions, because of the sorrow that is in us, because of the unhappiness that is in us. People are not, sometimes, these days, modern days, people are not happy with the money they have, the amount of money they have. People are not happy about their weight. They feel that they are overweight. That is leading them to sorrow. Not enough money, not enough, not able to provide for the family, not receiving the love from others, not receiving the love from parents, from children, from spouse. So all these things can slowly take a person into a life of sorrow, and the next step from sorrow to addictions. So therefore, be always thankful, see the hand of God in everything, and then you will see that the addictions of your life will have less and less power over your life. So we shared 4 areas in this talk. First area is feeding the spirit. So keep the spirit alive, keep the spirit healthy by doing spiritual things. So when you keep the spirit alive and healthy, the spirit will have the strength to fight the flesh. The spirit will have the strength to fight temptations and weaknesses, because when there is the moment of temptation, if the spirit is not strong, the body can lead the spirit into sin. The flesh can lead the spirit into sin. So therefore, the spirit has to be strong always, and we can always be strong by doing the things of the Lord, by taking that spiritual nourishment in us, by taking that spiritual food daily and regularly, daily prayer, daily family prayer, daily personal prayer, daily mass, daily Eucharistic adoration if it is available, daily Bible reading, weekly confession, weekly fasting, and almsgiving. So these are some areas how we can be fed spiritually, and feeding the spirit can destroy the works of the flesh in us, and addictions will flee from us. Desire to sin, inclination to sin can flee from us. That was the first point that I shared with you. The second point is to deal with our frustrations. Frustrations come from expectations, so therefore have no expectation from life. Never say, I'm going to live for so many years, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to build that, I'm going to do all that. But no, every day be thankful to God for that day. Do not worry about the future, do not plan too much about the future, but think about the day, what best can be done for that day. Each day's worries are enough for that day. So have no expectations from life or from people. Life and people, two things. We put too much of expectations, we have too much of dreams about these things, and they disappoint us, and we are led to frustrations, and frustrations breed addictions, frustrations breed sickness. Point number 10, deal with the emptiness of your life. Fulfill the two commandments, love of God and love of neighbor. Love of God by spending time with God and doing things pleasing to God. Love of neighbor by doing good, by praying for others, by blessing them, by attending to the needs of people. So we are fulfilling the love of our neighbor. Finally, point number 11, deal with your unhappiness, deal with that sorrow, and by thanksgiving and joy. You can only be joyful if you are content and be thankful for what God has given you. So joy has to do with thanksgiving. If you cannot be thankful for what you have, you cannot experience godly joy in you. So this joy, when we are filled with that heavenly joy, will give us the power to say no to sin. So sin will not come close to us when we have that joy, the joy of the Spirit in us. But when we don't have the joy of the Spirit in us, we tend to look for the joy in this world, and the world can only give pleasure, and we mistake pleasure to be joy, and we run after it, and we fall victim, we fall into many traps set by the devil. So there's 4 points that I shared with you in this talk, and as you follow all these steps, I shared about 11 steps altogether in 3 talks. If you follow these steps carefully and without wavering, be committed to these steps, you can find freedom from your addictions, because it has helped me from all major addictions, and I am free from all addictions. I can tell you this, sitting here, I can tell you this, because I followed these steps, and these steps don't fail. So God never fails, because He's all powerful, almighty, and He wants each and every one of us to be free. Amen.